Welcome back to another episode of Mad in Love. I'm your host, Dr. David Hawkins, and today we have a special guest joining us. She's a confidence therapist. I love that title. And an image expert, all in one person. I think that's pretty incredible. Known for her transformative work in helping individuals find lasting love and connection. Her unique confidence makeover process has garnered attention worldwide, and she's here to share her wisdom with us. Please join me in welcoming the incredible Kimmy Seltzer. Kimmy, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You exude confidence. Do you know that? You look confident. You sound confident.
Well, thank you. I wasn't always this way. That's my story. But thank you.
Why don't we start right there? Give us a little snapshot of I wasn't always this way, because we've got folks watching and listening who are still not that way. And my goodness, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I mean, I kind of teased that because I was hoping you'd ask me about my story, because, I always laugh a little bit when I hear my bio being played back. It's like, how did I get here kind of thing? But the real reason why I'm so passionate about doing what I'm doing is because of my own mess, my own story, my own transformation. That's why I'm so passionate about it. And, I guess I have a long version, a short version. I don't know how long we have. I'll do a medium version, but
medium, give us a medium version. Love it.
There's a lot of twists and turns with my story. I like you, I practiced as a therapist for many, many years. I'm from Chicago. I lived a very traditional life in the Midwest. I had the picket fence. I had the dog, a couple kids, a husband. I still have the kids, by the way, but you see where the story's going, and so we, all kind of, and I really thought that was my life. And here's the funny thing about confidence is that back then I considered myself pretty confident. I was confident in my career. I was learning how to be a mom. I had a really great support system. And, through the years in the work that I do, I realized there's all different kinds of confidence too, but in the different areas, I felt pretty good. And so everything was going on as planned, and we all picked up as a family, and we moved across the country, and we plopped down here in La La Land, LA, and boom, it's like, that's when the record stopped. And I joke, we ended up doing what all the other people here in LA do. We get a divorce. Obviously, I'm joking. I like to blame LA, but obviously, I would have been here anyway. And there I was, all alone in my new little castle, not knowing what to do with my new life, with no support system, as a single mom, and looking like a mess. So if you saw me back then, I, when everything happened, I just let myself go. And I was still wearing my nursing bras. It wasn't nursing any longer. I was in all black clothes. I really just, I think, kind of went into myself in a cocoon. And with that, and here's the kicker, up until that point, I believed as a therapist, and you can relate, that you had to work from the inside out. And so that's what I did for myself. I went to therapy. I did the work, right? And then I realized that the work became analysis paralysis. The work was a crutch to keep
You're stepping on a few toes here, but I like it. It's okay. We can do this.
Right. And I know you can handle it because you were on my podcast.
I do think you do the work from the inside out, but I think you're going to tell us that there may be another way to look at all of this, which I'm open to.
Well, and I think the inside job is huge. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm with you. I'm a therapist, right?
Okay.
Here's the thing. I realized in that moment that I was doing the work, and it was just all in my head. I wasn't taking action. And I know you're a big believer in that too. And so even though I had really understood intellectually what I needed to do, and gosh darn it, I was a therapist, right? I was like, I know better. I know what I need to do. I just couldn't get out of my own way. And the clothes really reflected this period of my life. I call it my dark period. And I remember giving up, wanting to just go back under the covers, not do anything. And it was like when I looked in the mirror, it was like all the pieces just shattered to the ground and fell. And I did not know how to pick up those pieces again. So once the girl who was very confident, that confidence just shattered in an instant. And this is what I mean about the confidence is that you
Yeah.
can be a confident person, but yet situations can come where it just makes you second guess yourself. And I didn't know who I was in that moment. Like my identity also was completely shattered. So here's the kicker, and this is what flipped the script for me about the inside out.
Yeah.
I took a hard look in the mirror one day, and I don't know why in that moment I really saw myself, but boy, did I see myself. I mean, I was like, who have I become?
Yeah.
And I decided to do something very untraditional as in the therapy world. I ended up going shopping. I'm like, you know what? Nothing fits me.
Little retail therapy
Shopping
starting out.
therapy. Yes, it started out that way. And I said, how can I go out in the world trying to capture love when I don't even look or feel lovable? Right. And so I went shopping and I think I'm doing all the things that normally like would shift you. I get new clothes, but no, in my arms, I'm putting black clothes again. I'm doing the same darn thing.
Oh, interesting.
Same darn thing.
Okay.
And this personal shopper, she comes up to me and she says, ma'am, I've been watching you and I really
that's interesting.
Yeah, it was, how like there's angels that kind of come into your life and it doesn't have to necessarily be ones that you suspect.
Yeah.
And she's like, I've been watching you and I really think you should try this on. And she holds up this red dress that looked like 3 sizes too small because I'd lost weight. I hadn't seen my body really, again, like in this fog, and it was red. So I said, that's really sweet of you, but that's not my size. And that is so not my color. And she says, honey, that is your size. That is your color.
Oh,
Try it
my.
on. I call it my red dress moment. Actually, I just did a TEDx talk on this because it really was that moment where you finally wake up and you see yourself. And boy, it hit me. So I grabbed the dress and I squeezed into it and I twirled around like Cinderella and bam, I looked in the mirror one more time and I saw a princess. Like it was like that Cinderella moment where I viscerally felt different and I saw myself different. And that had to happen. That perception of myself had to happen in order to shift me. And so I bought that dress that day and I walked out into the world and all this magic started happening to me, including new suitors coming my way and men actually noticing me. Now, here's the funny thing, and this is the second part of the story, which obviously I won't get into, but it's important to why I do what I do. I realized I was scared. I was like, wow, I'm getting attention now, and I don't know if I like it. I don't know what to do with this. I didn't know what to do with you, alien men.
To you and what's going on here?
Well, so in that moment, what I realized is that the black clothes was a black cloak to keep me invisible from men because really deep down I was scared. I was scared of being seen. I was scared of what that would mean and how I would move on, And so I had to get used to being seen. And I wore that red dress, honestly, everywhere. I marinated in it. I got used to it. I practiced walking and talking and until it became me. And now, as you can see, I always wear red. It's my brand. It's kind of like helping other people. And in that moment, I also realized there's a symbiotic relationship between the outer and the inner when it comes to confidence. It's not just an inside job. It's on the outside too. And so this is where kind of my business was born. So now I work from the outside in, and I do that with my magic formula called the Charisma Quotient, which is the name of my podcast, which you are on. And I work on 3 pillars, starting with your, what I call style intelligence, which is your first impressions. It's how you market yourself. It's your body language. It's your energy. It's the way you dress. And then I go inward and I work on like inner confidence and your emotional intelligence. And the third pillar is, of course, your social intelligence and how we interact with each other. And yes, that includes flirting. So flirting is a big part of my business. I'm just saying I really help people with that energy. And so that's kind of my story.
It took the personal shopper, though. It took someone outside of you to walk up to you and say, hey, hey, no, don't just buy the same black dress that looks the same. And no, 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 so somebody outside of you could see some possibilities in you, but before you could see them in yourself, perhaps.
It's so true. I mean, it just highlights like no one can be their own coach, their own therapist. We need outside perspectives, and in
Ah,
those instances too, it takes something that maybe feels uncomfortable to really shift you into that change, because no one changes in a state of comfort. We all change in a state of
say that
discomfort.
again, Kimmy, because there's so many things you're saying that are very key, but change does require rocking the boat for any of us. So, and we've got to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to look a little different, that I'm not really entirely comfortable. Like, I'm going to act in a way that's not entirely comfortable. I'm going to be someone that I don't really believe in. Is that right? I mean,
Oh my God, bingo. Yeah. Well, because if you don't feel that, then you're staying the same. And if you want to stay the same, I always tell people, I invite them to stay the same. Like but if you are wanting to shift and you want to like change aspects of your love life, who you are, who you attract, you have to do a pattern disruption. And you know what I mean by that, but you have to do
yeah.
something different that shakes things up, that gets a different result. And that's why I love the outside in approach, because there's not too many things in life, if you think about it, that have that instant kind of effect, right? The inside job's a long time.
Yeah.
And that outside, like when I work with people and I do makeovers or I go out in the field and I help people flirt, I'm kind of like Hitch meets What Not to Wear, if you know that the references. So I go out in the field and I see people like by just smiling or making eye contact or
Yeah.
wearing
Yeah.
a red dress, or guys, you know, dressing up and they feel hot. They walk different, and that impacts the signals they send out. So what I
Ah.
tell people all the time, it's not changing who you are. It's marketing yourself so people get to know who you are, because you could do all the inside job you can, but if you're not putting yourself out there, love's going to pass you by.
I think very few people, tell me if this is true, I think very few people would say, I absolutely want to just stay right where I am. I don't hear anybody, I never hear that. But maybe there are. I don't know. Are there people that, don't most of us, wouldn't most of us say, I mean, you must ask people the question like, who do you really want to be? What, I mean, come on, if you had wings and if you could fly and if you had a magic wand, wouldn't most people say, oh yeah, no, I want to grow my hair long or cut my hair short, or I want to wear red, or I want to, isn't that true?
It's interesting. And actually, it's funny that you said that, because I do ask that magic wand question all the time when I'm first hopping. I give free calls to people, and 90% of the people don't really know what they want.
Ah, okay.
And so they may say things that they think they want in ways of what society dictates or what they think might make them happy. But when I peel away the layers and I really
Yeah.
dig in, they're like, you know, I don't really want a boyfriend, or no, I don't really want a girlfriend. I want to just go have fun. I'm like, really? So how are you going to get it? Like, what are you going to do? And they're like, well, I don't know. I never thought about that before. So it's like, I think people want something, but they don't know the how to. So that's what I love doing what I do, is that I'm very skill based. You know, it's like, well, what
Yeah.
skills do you need to learn in order to achieve whatever that is you want? Because it can be overwhelming, especially when people are getting out there and dating.
If in our at our therapy center, we work with folks that have suppressed their wants for a long time. So I'm not surprised that you saying that. I think there's a lot of I'm going to say women, but men too. If I were to ask them, what do you want? I think they would go like, I don't know exactly what I want. Is that true? Do you think there's a lot of people that have suppressed their wants? And so that's really a refined skill to be able to sit and go like, yeah, I know that living by the water, this is true for me, by the way, living by the water nourishes my soul. I know that. But a lot of folks, I don't know that they know where they want to live, who they want to live with, what they want to do, what color do they appreciate. I don't know. I'm thinking there's a lot of folks that have suppressed that it's not safe, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that Is that true?
I think definitely. And what I see is that a lot of times you might be in a tug of war with yourself because it's like what you want, you also fear, and what you fear is also what you want. And so, if, especially as life goes on, and I really specialize in helping people date in the second act, as I call it, after
Yeah.
40, where, life has happened. Most people either have been maybe in toxic relationships or ones
Yeah.
that didn't work out. They've gotten
Yeah. Yeah.
hurt, emotionally abusive ones, as you know. And so what happens is the guard goes up. And so they're like, well, I'm not going to flirt until I know it's safe. But I'm like, but you realize you're actually stopping yourself from opening possibilities up to see who will like respond to you by like waiting, because this is where I think people get stuck. So that it's this like push me, pull me kind of thing. And that's why, like, I do these co-ed dating retreats, and I have one coming up, and it's so beautiful, like watching people just focus on coming into their sexy confidence. Because really, at the end of the day, it's not about the man, it's not about the woman, it's about you. And when you feel sexy, you feel confident, that's when all this stuff starts happening. Rather than worrying about what other people think or having the fears, overcome them. So,
Let's back up a step. Tell us about the charisma quotient.
yes.
This is your brand. I want to make sure that
Yeah.
we all understand what the charisma quotient is and how you developed it.
Yeah. So, it started from my story, and I realized that there was such power in the way that we interact with the world, in our energy, our first impressions, our clothes. So there's three pillars, as I mentioned before, and I like starting from the outside. And
Style.
that is with your style intelligence. Yeah.
Is that
And
so the charisma quotient is those three,
the
a
three pillars.
composite of those three, the style quotient, the emotional quotient, the social IQ.
Yes. Yes. And within that, there's like different skills that I like, teaching people, because not everybody, I'm not like this cookie cutter approach coach. Like everybody has a different journey, as you know, and that's what shapes us. And there's holes missing, I find sometimes in those three areas. So, like with your style, a lot of people don't even realize what a sexy style is when it comes to dating. Like maybe they know how to dress for work, or they know how to dress being a mom or a dad, but they've never thought about a dating costume, as I call it, like what the opposite sex finds attractive. That's an essential part of your marketing as you go out there in the world. It's not only how people see you, but also how you see yourself. So it's really magical when I do, like, even in my dating retreats, we do whole photo shoots. Like, that's the first thing we do. We do salsa dancing. We do like all the stuff that has to do with like our body language, and it interacts, again, with how we feel. And as you know, like, if we're feeling better, then that's also going to give us validation internally. And so it'll grow our confidence on the inside. But now in the emotional intelligence piece, what I work on a lot with people is authenticity and vulnerability, and how we connect with each other. Because I find often too, people, when they're on a date, and this is like in the very first stages, they don't ask for what they want. They don't say who they are. They might be a people pleaser, or they're worried
Oh yeah.
about what the other person wants rather than who they want. And so understanding what vulnerability and authenticity is when it comes to dating stages is a really big thing. And that also, that, as you know, it really attracts reciprocal kinds of relationships. So, I always tell people, it's not TMI. It's not going on a date and saying, tell me about your childhood and your relationship with your mother. I mean, it's not that, but it's like expressing your feelings and showing passion and emotion in the words that you choose. And the third pillar, like I said, is like the interpersonal communication, which is your social intelligence. Honestly, this is another big part, is just teaching people how to have conversations. Like, I can't tell you how many times I slip into
Yeah.
people's Bumble's account or like Tinder, and it looks like a LinkedIn exchange, like this boring like conversation that's
Oh
going back
my.
and forth. People don't even know how to flirt and be playful and have that interaction, both in the like apps and also in life. And so I love teaching that. I have a formula, I call it the social engagement formula, where I teach people how to get out of their heads and into like more playful, heartfelt,
Tell
personal
us,
conversations.
I'm intrigued. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, because I
What'd you
find
call it again? The playfulness quotient? No, what'd you call it?
yeah, a social engagement formula. I know I have all these like names.
Social engagement formula.
Yeah. So,
Okay, I want this.
it's, I don't have time to go into all of it, but what I will say is that I find that a big piece of what stops people from having really like connected conversations is because people are talking about topical, surface, factual kind of conversations. So you might
Okay.
go on a date and spew back and forth just topics,
Where were
but
you
you're not.
born? Kind of where do you work? Where do you
Yeah, how many
live?
kids do you
How many
have?
kids do you
Like
have?
where'd you go to school? How long have you been divorced for? Like
Oh,
boring.
boring. Okay,
Yeah.
so but
And
what's the more
so part
exciting conversation?
Well, part of what I teach is storytelling is a big part of like conversations. And within that formula, when you're telling stories, when you're sharing things about yourself, that's more personal in nature. Because at the end of the day, people are attracted to the way that you make them feel, not based on what you know. And this is something that's so hard, especially if you're like, and I work with a lot of high achievers who are outcome driven and in their head, or they might be a little more left brain and analytical. And so they're like thinking so much. And I'm like, it's not about what you know, it's just about the feeling you create. So the playfulness, and I do have an improv background. I know you and I talked about that
Oh
on my
yeah.
podcast. It's a big part of it too. So I like make people be goofy, like the silliest, most like almost like you would think dumb conversations are the best ones because
Yeah.
there's an emotion that comes from that.
Just loosen up, have fun, have a playful conversation, not just spewing out fact after fact after fact. And I don't know what my self-confidence quotient is. I'm assuming I'm kind of average, maybe slightly above average, but I can be a little threatened, like, oh, you're telling me to wear cat ears or what a guy would, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to do
I
that.
would never make you wear cat ears, by the way.
Okay.
Everyone
Well,
guys wear different things. Yeah.
all right. Well, anyway, but how do you give us some tips on how you boost self-confidence and charisma?
Yeah, you know what I love? And the reason why I came up with charisma as part of the quotient is when I was doing the research, I realized that charisma is something that no one is born with. It's a learned skill. And why I like that, it means I can teach it. And trust me, like I've taught it, like I've helped 85-year-old woman go pick up a man at a bar, all the way down to a 25-year, and it's ages of no consequence. And so charisma is kind of this magnetism that just draws people to you. And so that's why it's kind of the overarching theme when it comes to confidence. As you gain that skill, people interact with you and then that validates you, right? And so that grows your confidence. Now, when it comes to confidence overall, I mentioned before there are three areas, and you'll hear that it kind of goes along with my pillars. There is your outer confidence, right? Like how we feel when we look in the mirror could also include your body as well. Like as we age, a lot of us start like not liking our bodies or covering up, and that affects the clothes we wear. It affects the body language we have. We might slump over. There's a lot of things about our body or outer confidence that impact just how people see us even. The minute, and this is what's so fascinating because I do a lot of work on first impressions. Do you know it only takes 7 seconds now to make a first impression? Like it used to be 30
Whoa.
seconds a couple of years ago. It's 7 seconds now.
Wow.
It's crazy. And then what research says, and this is not just me talking, but what in the brain, they did a study, and that people make judgments and assumptions on two things. One is the clothes you wear, and two is the attitude that you have, which includes the body language. That's why
That
I'm
makes
so
sense.
big in
Makes
that,
sense. Yep.
right? And so that's part. So that's my thing is like, if you can get a handle on your outer confidence, it's going to definitely impact the way you feel inside. So just inner confidence is what most of us think about. It's our resilience. It's how we handle rejection. It's our self-worth. It's our value. And a lot of times we might think that we have the inner confidence, but when push comes to shove, when I start like naming scenarios, it might be that you don't. The third is your social confidence. So you might be great on stage or great in your role at work or even like have an amazing style. But then if you walk into a room, like how confident are you? Like, do you have social anxiety? Are you able to have social comfort, in groups, or are you better one-on-one? Like all of these nuances really impact things. So you ask, how do I help? I have one simple word, and this is how I define confidence. It's not very sexy, or it's one word, and that is experience. End of story. Just experience. I don't believe there's one person out there that doesn't have like confidence overall. It just means there's an area that you haven't had positive exposure to or experience around. So how do you get it? You do it, and you got to do it over and over and over again until it becomes you.
So, Kimmy, we've been talking about individuals and singles. I'm wondering about how playfulness and flirting can apply to couples and couples who are already coupled, but they're disconnected. Yes. And I'm imagining, when I do couples counseling, and even in the midst of intense conflict, if I can generate a little bit of playfulness, the whole mood shifts. This couple who are so intent on disliking each other, and it's called negative emotion override or negative sentiment override. Like, I'm mad at you. You're mad at me. I don't like you and you don't like me, right? That's the deal. And if I can get them, well, wait a second here now. You guys played putt-putt golf this weekend. How did that, anyway? What's the importance of playfulness and flirting with a couple that maybe have negative sentiment override?
Oh my God, it's huge. It's funny because I've had, a lot of my clients do get into relationships, and then there's a whole other set of challenges, right? Like each phase has that challenge. And I always say, like, never stop dating. Like never stop dating.
I love that.
Never It's so true. And I think with couples, especially, like it's really easy to fall into a state of complacency where you're doing kind of the same thing. You're maybe eating Chinese food in front of the TV with your sweats on, and you lose that sense of the kind of spark and care that you had in the beginning. And so all the things that I teach people how to do to get date prep ready, couples do too, And so I've done a lot of podcasts on that, and it's so important. I mean, what I love about flirting too, when you look in the dictionary of, it's fascinating. The definition is to behave as though you are attracted to someone without the serious intention.
Say that again.
Isn't that great? Like,
I love this.
Yes.
To behave.
Yes, it's to behave as though you are attracted to someone without the serious intention of an outcome. And the reason why a lot of people don't flirt is because
Kimmy, I am
they're
so
worried
sorry,
about
but
what's next.
please, this is a
lose
sound
the
bite
sense of the presence. But honestly, this is, again, it's all tied into the charisma. It all is tied into the confidence. When you are present and you're being playful and you're just creating like this flirtation with everyone, that is when that magic happens, and even with couples, as you said, like the adrenaline rush is there. People connect in ways that are, even just organically, the endocrine system kicks in. Like it's all the stuff that really matter when it comes to the attraction, because if you lose that sense of flirtation, again, you're losing opportunity. Like I invite you listeners to think about, like, when you're out there in the world, are you noticing people noticing you? Are you, like I tell people, flirt with babies, flirt with dogs, flirt with people of all ages, right? It's that energy that's so attractive because you also don't know who's noticing you and watching you. May not be the person you're actually flirting with. And I kid you not, this has happened a lot. There was a woman who I again, like kind of created this like flirtation queen in her. She was deathly shy. She never was the one that would be like the one that walked in the room and demanded attention. And I taught her this, right? And, again, using the charisma quotient, all the things we did. And it was beautiful because one day she was at the bar and everybody actually started looking to her for being the flirt. And she was just flirting with everyone at the bar. And she said, Kimmy, like there was no one at the bar I was really even interested in. But at the end of the night, this guy comes up to her and he's like, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. He's like, I loved your energy. Like I've been watching you and just thank you for being so positive. And he didn't do it in a creepy way. It was just very genuine.
Yeah.
That guy ended up being her boyfriend. You just
Aw.
don't know who's watching.
So you teach individuals how to maintain a spirit of playfulness, to be having fun. Come on. I mean, do you talk like that? Like, come on. What are we doing here? Have some fun.
Yeah, I think actions speak way louder than words. Like we can say that, just have fun. But unless you're doing it and putting it into action, that's when, again, we embody it. So again, I'm so big on talking less and action more. And again, it's kind of rooted and embedded within my story, my red dress moment. Like, again, I knew intellectually what I needed to do, but it wasn't until I put on a costume that things started shifting. It wasn't until I learned how to flirt and put myself out there that I started dating. Like these are the action steps. And this is what I was saying before about confidence. If dating or finding love or even breaking patterns in who you're attracting, it seems really hard. Don't go or attack it from a stance of that big goal.
Yeah.
Break it down into these 3 areas and say, well, maybe I'll start just wearing red lipstick. And just do that for a month and see the impact that has. Or maybe it's like, you know what? I'm just going to say no for a month and see, like, by you expressing yourself and setting boundaries, does that make a difference who you're attracting? Or maybe it's like, okay, I'm going to smile and make eye contact with 3 people each day and just see what happens. These are the habit forming actions that is, again, going to shift you into a whole different state and who you attract.
I want to just emphasize this for everybody. So pattern disruption or pattern interruption. So you would say to anybody watching, listening, pick something, say it again, pick something to disrupt or to interrupt and do it for a month, like wear a different color that you normally wouldn't wear, grow your hair a little longer than you would, cut it a little shorter than you normally would, do something, just disrupt things. Is that right?
Exactly. And, I have a free gift for your listeners, and this is a great way to just kind of like start. I always say those little action steps is going to add up to the bigger win. And so if you're someone who haven't paid attention to your style or even know what your body style is, I have this body type guide, and I have a man's manifesto fashion kind of guide where you download it and you kind of see like for women, there are 5 body types, and you can measure yourself, your shoulders, your waist, and your hips, and you see what shape you are. And then I go over what clothes flatter your figure and what clothes to stay away from. And like, you could just start there. And for men, there's not too many body types, but there are definitely like fashion rules to start thinking about. And if you just do one thing in that guide that can really help you, and you can just go to kimmyseltzer.com/style to pick that up if you wanted to. But again, like just do an action
kimmyseltzer.com/styles. Confidence is the unifying theme here, Kimmy. So whether we're talking to folks that are married or single or dating or not dating or whatever, confidence, come on, we all want and need confidence. And too many of us have been suppressed or felt suppressed. We've been suppressed. And I think I'm going to go after purple. And I think I want everybody, we're going to have a lot of people that are going to view this podcast. And Kimmy, I want folks to come alive. And whether they're exhausted, whether they feel downtrodden, there's still an opportunity to come alive and be who we are uniquely as individuals. Man, we are exciting. You're an exciting person. I'm an exciting person, and we can still live. So,
love it.
All right. I want to thank you so much for being here. You exude, you just exude confidence. I like it. That was, and we did a podcast previously, and that was a lot of fun. So, As always, if any of this resonates with you, please know that we're available to help. You can reach us by visiting www.marriagerecoverycenter.com to learn more about what we do. You can find more information in the show description. If you enjoyed today's show, please give it a 5-star rating and be sure to subscribe to our channel to be notified of new episodes. I also want to encourage you to tune into Kimmy's podcast, The Charisma Quotient. Yay, yay, rah, rah. And we'll be sure to add her information in our show's description. Thank you for tuning in, and we will talk again very soon. Take care and God bless.